Bifrost and Chablis, I would say, when you look at history, it's always been an important part of the development of the Chablis vineyard. There's a lot of discussion today, but when we look back in the 50s, even in the 40s, 1940, 1950, 1960, the overall climate was colder in April and May, and what we call spring frost was, I would say, at the number one subject for the wine growers, and all of us and all of them at back in history was looking for alternatives, solution in order to protect the vineyard. And it was clear back in the 60s, the Chablis growers were not living from the vineyard. They were farmers, agriculture, and when the season was, I would say, generous, they could make what we said back in history, a feuillette or a cartot. They could make just a barrel of wine. Overall, it was, I would say, current, and it was not every year, but every other year, the vineyard were damaged by frost. My uncle, back in the 1960s, went to Champagne to see Moom, who had trials. They were starting to look at ways of protecting the vineyard, and they were using what we call smudge pots. They were just using fuel, burning fuel into large metallic chimneys, and that, I would say, created a positive atmosphere within the vineyard. That was brought back to Chablis and largely developed over the years, I would say probably up to 1990, 1995, probably till 2000, where it was common to see Grand Cru, Premier Cru, and also Chablis vineyard, I would say, protected during April and May by this alternative. The different solution we have today, obviously smudge pots and fuel is abandoned now. It's mostly, I would say, an environmental, I would say, a problem. We're using still today what we call candles, just pots where we just light. Each of them is 200 to 300, I would say, individual pots into the vineyard. That's probably the most, I would say, common solution today. But there is trials with electricity, which is simply a wire resistant that is on the bottom part of the trellising system, and what we call la baguette, which is the cane, that's going to be against the resistance. The resistance is going to be at 10, 12 degrees, so positive, and it's from evening to, I would say, to the morning. So positive temperature, negative on the outside, and even though it could be severe, like we saw this year, with negative -7, -8 temperature, we still maintain a positive 4 degree, I would say, around the cane and the buds. So it works, and we can say today that all of the Grand Cru that were protected, Les Clos, for example, after harvest that just happened last week, we can say that this system really helped us and probably protected a good part of the, I would say, the yield that we could, I would say, bring out from those vineyards. There's also new projects with windmills, just the big towers, but heating windmills. So we are playing on the simply trying to turn over the, I would say, the hot air and the cool air, and with, I would say, heating gas heater on the bottom. We are bringing into the windmill, I would say, hot air, and then hopefully we can do this turnaround of the temperature, so the cool cold temperature on the bottom is going to be reversed, and then the hot temperature is going to be on the bottom. There's also another system in Chablis, we call it les bâches. Les bâches is simply like a big, like a blanket that you take, I would say, over the vineyards, and that blanket is keeping a positive temperature against, I would say, the cool air that you have on the outside. It's an experiment. It's authorized by the NAO for a few more years, and we'll see in 2-3 years if we can, I would say, make it definitive or not. But I think that water with the aspersion, which has been, I would say, the second method after the heating, the smudge pots, and aspersion works well. It's, I would say, very simple system that you put water over the vineyards. You start on positive. At the end of the evening, positive temperature, you create an ice glove around the buds, and then you do that all night, and then in the morning the sun, I would say, rises, you continue to put water, and then the ice glove will melt, and you protect, I would say, the bud. So that's still continues, is still present in different parts of the vineyard. So we'll see, is there going to be other system? Maybe, we'll see. Global warming in Chablis today is definitely I would say, a problem, but it's been positive for us compared to 50 years ago with different vintages that were, I would say, just at maturity back 50 years ago. Today we have, I would say, vintages that are fully mature. They are much more, I would say, rounder. They are more Chablis, I would say, good Chablis characteristics where we maintain acidity and maturity. But we need to look also at alternatives in order to maintain that quality that we have now in past. When you look at the last 10 vintages, in order to fight a little bit against drought, against heat, and different winemakers, wine growers are looking at different rootstocks that we could use to have, I would say, the Chardonnay grape a little bit more resistant against the lack of water or excess of heat. That's one, I would say, route where we're going down to with the help of the BIVB and the different Chambres d'Agriculture. So it's important for us. I think that it's an important, I would say, aspect to develop. Trellising also is going to be the other way to protect. We were almost very severe in Chablis in terms of trellising. Today we are using, I would say, the leaf, a canopy, a little more to use it as an umbrella to protect the grapes from sunburnt. So it's something that we need to adapt, I would say, to the vineyard. And we'll see, maybe we need to have our pruning also a little later, depending on the season. We need to look, I would say, into the future, because a vineyard, you do something today, but you're going to find, I would say, the result in 10 years, 15 or 20 years. So maybe we need to look at a different trellising system in order to protect, I would say, the Chardonnay. And also we need to continue the discussion on the different methods that we have for reserve. This is more, I would say, to be discussed with the BIVB. We have something called le VCI, which is individual, I would say, reserve that each wine grower can put aside if a vintage is generous. So it's definitely, I would say, it's a reserve. You put some wine aside. Following year, you are, I would say, with lower quantity, then you can use, I would say, that reserve, and that can, I would say, maintain an average, I would say, average yield. So there are different ways of looking at it, but we need to definitely continue to be as open as possible. But again, it's difficult for us because we don't have, I would say, the solution that's going to be, I would say, positive for the vineyard. And we have a lot of pressure also from a different bodies in terms of environmental protection of the vineyard. We need to do better. We are doing better every year, but it's the conjunction in between the two is difficult to match. But that's the way it is, and we will continue definitely to work forward and to find solution for Chablis, and especially for Chablis to be there tomorrow.